Everything Everywhere All at Once is a crazy, beautiful, imaginative, confusing masterpiece, and I loved every second of it. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Our Pass. Today I'm talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once, an all-new, just crazy nuts film from the Daniels, from Daniel Scheinert and Daniel Kwan. It has an ensemble cast. It is just an insane movie, and it is so perfect. It is such a great film. It's very confusing. It makes no sense, and all the sense. It is just an experience. It's something you really have to see. As you can tell, my hot take is I think you should watch it. It's an imaginative, wonderful piece of storytelling that is as amazing as it is confusing. And by the end, you are just enjoying this crazy ride. It's like The Matrix meets Into the Spider-Verse meets, I guess, kind of Scott Pilgrim, just for that style and general kind of irreverence. It is something to behold. It is a spectacle, and God, it is so good. So I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked. There was nothing I didn't like about this movie, and then go a little bit into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers. If you don't want to know anything, turn it off before the ending discussion. I will hold the spoilers to the end. And to be honest, a lot of this film, just you kind of have to see it to understand. I'm going to keep a lot of the particularly funny scenarios and things like that vague for the ending discussion. So when you see it, there will still be plenty of great surprises, really crazy things that happen. And I actually couldn't describe them all. Like, there was just so much that's going on in this movie that you really just have to see to believe. So loosely, Everything Everywhere All the Time follows this Chinese American woman played by Michelle Yeoh, and she is the kind of the matriarch of this family. Her husband Waymond is a very nice guy, but he's not like the most competent person. Her daughter Joy doesn't seem to like her that much. I mean, she seems to be kind of going through some young adult angst. The big thing that has to happen today is they have to meet with the tax auditor played by Jamie Lee Curtis to go over their taxes and figure out what they need to do. There was something wrong with how they filed, and so they have to get to the tax place. They have to get there, but along the way, Waymond kind of gets possessed. He changes very abruptly into a very different person and tells Evelyn this crazy story about multiverses and how she has to kind of look for signs, and that just starts this journey of imagination and insanity that is just wonderful, just purely wonderful. So things I liked about this movie, the first is the originality, and this is a really interesting one because the film is original, but it also has like pieces of a bunch of different films. Like, you're going to get references from The Matrix, you're going to get references from some cartoons, you're going to get references from pop culture. It's this like wonderful remix movie that has aspects of all these other various films melded together into this one just fever dream of insanity that is also original on its own. Like, it takes all these pieces and creates this wholly original idea and story and scenario from all of these various pop culture references and a bit of its own. I mean, it's not just like a mashup, but it's amazing that it takes all of these references and blends them in seamlessly into this story. And it takes all these references, tweaks them, they all kind of are blended into this insanity pot, and they're changed to either like make them fit in with a story or make them funnier or make them just crazier. And then it builds this story that is both impossible to follow and also just feels so right. The second thing I loved was the humor. I mean, this film had a lot of humor, a lot of very funny scenarios, a lot of very funny sequences. It's both jokes, it's just strange situations, it's people's reactions, it's what happens when they start jumping between the universes, and like things they do in one universe will affect things that are happening in the other. And sometimes that is hilarious because they'll split to this other universe where what they were doing in one wouldn't make much sense, and so they look kind of embarrassed or insane because of that. All of this just contributes to this film's overall humor, and it was just a joy to watch. It was very funny. I was laughing out loud multiple times throughout and just had a smile on my face for pretty much the entire movie. The third thing I liked is the action. I mean, the action in this film is frantic and crazy and also ties in with the insanity of the story. The action feels like a mix between old school martial arts films and The Matrix, because you have some over-the-top effects, some slow-mo sequences, things like that. But then you also have this aspect where like Evelyn will take skills from other multiverses and use those in the fight. And sometimes it's a very weird connection, but it always fits. Like she will take some sort of innocuous skill that you wouldn't expect to contribute to a fight and then use that in the fight in this wonderful new way. And it just leads to, again, like insane scenes, funny scenes, but also action-packed fight scenes. The fourth thing I love is, just the heart. I mean, the film has an underlying story and an underlying message, and there are some very, very good moments of drama. Like I keep saying that the film is insane. The film is insane. It's over the top, but there are also some very grounded, wonderful scenes between this family just trying to like get their taxes in and learning about themselves and learning about their choices. And that leads to these revelations and, very kind of dramatic moments where they are confronting these in the context of some very large themes and some very large consequences. But sometimes it can boil down to just these family members trying to connect with each other and figure out where they go next. And the last thing I love, I've mentioned it a couple times, the craziness. I mean, this movie is just nuts. It is pure insanity. Every time you think it can't get weirder, it does. It gets weirder, but it all fits perfectly. And it's just a wonderful film. I loved everything about this. Now I'm going to go to the ending. There will be spoilers here. If you don't want to know about the film, and you probably don't, it is a very interesting film to kind of go through, then turn this off now. But if you want to know a little bit more about the ending, if you want to kind of see where the story goes, or maybe you've already seen it and you want to hear my thoughts, then let's keep going. In the main story, we find out that there is some sort of evil entity. I think the name was Jobu Tatake. I also wrote like Topa Topake in my notes, but I think it was Jobu Tatake. So we'll go with that. If it's wrong, sorry. And that entity has like control over various multiverses. Like that entity can kind of shift between the multiverses at will and can appear in any of them, and also has created this like ultimate evil weapon that we are trying to stop. Now, what happened when Evelyn was trying to turn her taxes is her husband, Waymond, like I said, he kind of changed into this very competent person. And we find out that Waymond is like the Waymond from, they call it the Alphaverse. It was like the first multiverse that learned that you could jump between multiverses and kind of pull skills through the multiverse. And so that Waymond is trying to talk to Evelyn to kind of convince her to help because he thinks that she can finally stop Jobu Tatake. So another thing we find out is that in order to like pull these like aspects from other versions of the multiverse, these characters have to do some really weird things, and that leads to some very hilarious moments. It's all like kind of mundane stuff that they use to then kind of connect with another entity of theirs in the multiverse that maybe has a skill they want. Like let's say you're about to fight, and so you need to get like one of your multiverse character, like one of your entities from a multiverse where you know how to fight. But in order to do that, you have to like gargle mouthwash and twirl, or you have to like rub your eyes with hand sanitizer, or one he has to like give himself paper cuts. And so it leads to these just insane situations. There's some very, very funny ones that occur later when people are trying to like pull these aspects in and just using what they have and seeing like what that will then give them. So what we also find out later in the story, there are a few main things that we find out. The first like big revelations, we find out that Jobu Tatake is actually Evelyn's daughter Joy. So Evelyn's daughter Joy is this entity that has kind of control over all the multiverses, can kind of go between them, and also is a pretty evil character. We also find out that Jobu Tatake has created this evil weapon, which is actually, it's an everything bagel. It has like everything from every universe put into it. It's this like dark circle bagel that also looks kind of like a black hole. We don't really know what's going to happen to it, but it seems pretty evil. And the last thing we learn is that Evelyn starts to navigate the multiverse, and we find out why this Evelyn is able to do it. This Evelyn is, I guess, the worst Evelyn. So like in the timeline of Evelyn's, she made every wrong choice. So like the other choices that she didn't make, those split off to like have great things happen to them, like have great careers or learn interesting skills. And this Evelyn just kind of like went through life choosing the worst choices. But that benefits her because of that, she can go back through the timeline and like find the aspects of her that took different avenues and pull those in. So it's a very funny way to kind of like describe this Evelyn. Like this one is special because she was like the worst and made all the worst choices. She can go back and access the Evelyns that did great things. I thought that was a pretty clever way to kind of describe it and make this like special person, not special, but also very special. So eventually, some other people from, I'll call them Fighting Waymond, Alphaverse Waymond universe come into this world. They jump in through, they take over like their entities in this world, and they tell Evelyn that she has to kill her daughter because her daughter is Jobu Tatake, and if they kill her, at least Jobu Tatake won't be able to get into this world, and maybe they could also stop Jobu Tatake. But Evelyn can't do that. Like it's still her daughter; she still loves her, so she pulls herself, her daughter, and Waymond like into this safe place. It's actually physically a safe. She pulls them into the safe place, and then she starts kind of jumping and pulling aspects of the other multiverse Evelyns into her so that she can figure out how to escape. So after they escape, Evelyn eventually kind of like confronts her daughter. Her daughter says like she was looking for her. She didn't want to kill Evelyn. She just wanted someone else to see the world the way she does, because so Jobu Tatake can like see everything in the universe, right? She can see like every version of herself, every choice, all of that stuff. And it makes, it gives her this great power, but it also makes like any one instance of her kind of insignificant in her mind. So it's almost like she doesn't really care about anything because anything that happens in any of the multiverses is so insignificant to like her overall mentality that she almost like can't feel any joy because nothing that she does in any of the universes will have any sort of effect on her. So eventually her daughter, as Jobu Tatake, shows Evelyn the everything bagel, the like super black hole everything bagel. And this kind of fractures Evelyn's mind and lets her kind of jump between all these different parallel universes at once. Like she kind of gets that power. She was experimenting with it. She was getting to become more adept at it, but this really lets her kind of jump between them. And there's this amazing sequence of like parallel events that happen where I love these scenes because it'll have like Evelyn will be like singing and then it'll like jump to some other scene where she is like singing and embarrasses herself because she should be like quiet, and then it'll jump to another scene where she's like fighting, and then another scene where she'll like be fighting, like she'll have her fighting self out, but she'll be like close to people and she'll accidentally like hit someone. It's a really interesting way to like show these various universes and show someone jumping between them all. Now Evelyn is in essentially the same boat as Joy. She's seen like all these multiverses and she's kind of over them, right? Like she comes to the conclusion like nothing matters, like nothing she does matters, and so she kind of becomes like a self-destructive version of Evelyn. Like she does things in these multiverses now that hurt the people and the things that she loves because in her mind now nothing really matters, not everything is kind of insignificant, and so she kind of does what she wants when she wants. And in one of those multiverses she hurts someone that she loves. And be careful here, because if you think back to the All American Rejects song Move Along, like where it's like flashing between all these different versions of the lead singer as he's singing, it's similar to that. And there's a lot of flashing lights, there's a lot of change in her character very abruptly. But so if you're sensitive to that, just be careful, because there are some very fast-paced frantic scenes here. So after this like frantic fracturing kind of scene where we see a bunch of different Evelyns like back to back to back to back, you get into one of the most imaginative scenes. I love this. I'm not going to tell you about it because it was just such a great sequence, but there's a really great view during it. And so during this scene, you have Evelyn and Joy talking, and Evelyn finds out that Joy built the everything bagel just to end it. Like she had kind of seen the universe, couldn't really find any joy in it because everything was so insignificant. So she had seen too much and she built the everything bagel just to end it. But now she has Evelyn, and she's, has someone that sees the world the way that she does. So you think that maybe Evelyn and Joy are going to have this like symbiotic, but kind of like unfulfilling future, right? Because they understand each other, but they don't really get to have joy in anything because of kind of what they've seen. But then you get pulled back into, I'll call it like the main reality. So Evelyn, at her IRS meeting, they were given like till the end of the day to amend their taxes and fix the issues. And then some stuff happened. It didn't really go well. And so now we're back in the main reality at their laundromat at night, and we see Waymond talking to the IRS lady, and he's connecting with her. It's kind of like what Waymond can do. He is such a great person, and so they have a very human moment. He connects with her, and she like kind of nods and like walks away. And so Evelyn asked like what happened, and when Waymond said, "Well, she gave us a week. We have more time on our taxes." And there's some more stuff that happens, but eventually we get a scene with Waymond, and he's explaining in this, again, another wonderfully parallel scene where you like have jumps between various Waymonds in Evelyn's life. And that, he's explaining essentially like, I've seen just as much as you have. I don't think, I mean, he hasn't seen like the universe the way that Evelyn has, but he's, just as old as her. He's had the same experiences that she's had. And what he has chosen to do is to see the good in people. Like, whereas now Evelyn is just seeing kind of everything as insignificant, he's seeing like the beauty in people and the joy in like connecting with people. And it's a really, really beautiful scene. Like, again, this movie just has so many really great, dramatic, beautiful scenes that explain these very human concepts in this out of this world kind of way, but really, really touching. So even though Evelyn has hurt Waymond in like a lot of these multiverses in very different ways, he still is pleading with her to like be kind and to see the good in people. And she says that she can't. But then we get this flash scene where we get to see kind of the world through the eyes of Waymond, and we see all the like wonderful things that he's done in their life, like the joy of their first laundromat, his smiling at her, this happiness when they had joy, and seeing joy like run around. Like we see just essentially the world through Waymond's eyes, and it's a very beautiful world. It's a very happy world. So it seems like maybe Evelyn is starting to see the good in everything, but then Joe Bitatake comes into this reality and pulls the everything bagel in. So she kind of like pulls that bagel into this reality, and it starts to kind of like suck up pieces of this universe. And then also Joe Bitatake, or Joy, starts going towards the bagel and pulls all these henchmen in to kind of stop Evelyn from preventing her from going to the bagel. So Evelyn's ready to fight. She's geared up, ready to go. But then Waymond says, please, no more fighting. Then we get this really wonderful sequence where Evelyn is like fighting these henchmen, but in doing it, she's like showing them good scenes in their life. Like she will fight them, but like do it in a way that has them emulate joyful moments in their life and positive things that have happened in like one of their multiverse lives. And it kind of leaves everyone very happy because they discover these aspects about them where they are very happy. So it's a fight scene, but it is kind of Evelyn giving these people great experiences as they're fighting. It is, again, another really just touching, interesting scene. So Evelyn eventually gets to Joy, and her father, who is, I guess like a general in the Alphaverse and is kind of that general persona, tries to stop her. And Evelyn says like, no, she's not going to let her daughter go. She's not going to let her daughter go like her father let her go years ago when she went to America with Waymond. She says that she can't let her daughter go like that, and that her daughter is just like her. Like Evelyn explains that she's stubborn, aimless, and a mess, and her daughter is just like that. But the universe has given both of them someone that makes up for everything that she lacks. So Evelyn has Waymond, who kind of helps her see the good in everyone. And her daughter Joy has her girlfriend Becky. So earlier there was this big scene when Evelyn's father was coming from China. He was sick and had to get taken care of. So he was moving to America to be taken care of. And they made a big deal of like not introducing Becky as Joy's girlfriend because she didn't want to like upset her father. And it was just this really awkward scene. And now we kind of jump to that scene again, except now Evelyn is introducing Becky as Joy's girlfriend. I think that was this big scene of understanding where like Evelyn also kind of accepted this as well and accepted that like Becky made Joy happy and made Joy a better person. So now we're back to kind of like, I'll call it the fighting universe, the universe where the bagel is there and Joy as Joe Bitatake is kind of going towards the bagel to end it all. And Evelyn, grabs her before she's able to go through, and they kind of have this fight scene. They like fight through multiple universes, fighting in their various entities through the multiverse. And eventually you find out, eventually Evelyn is pulling Joy out of the portal, but she has help because she has both her husband and her father pulling Joy out of the portal. So they get her out, and then we go back to like the main reality, the laundromat reality. We see Joy at her car, and when Evelyn was introducing Becky as Joy's girlfriend, Joy like left the laundromat and went to her car. So Evelyn followed her, and now she's at the car, and Joy is crying. And Joy eventually like pleads with her mom to just let her go, like let her do her own thing. And her mom says, okay. And so we're now back to the fight universe, and Evelyn lets go of Joy and lets Joy go into the bagel. Evelyn also says like it doesn't make sense why they looked for each other throughout the multiverses and why Joy was looking for her, but they did. And then we have this beautiful scene of like all these characters that we've met along the way, like taking chances on people, like taking chances on friendship, taking chances on like helping each other out. And it's just again another beautiful scene where you see like the good in people. So after this sequence, Joy reaches out of the portal, Evelyn grabs her hand and pulls her back, and we get pulled back to like the main reality world, and we see Evelyn and Joy embracing. So now we're on to part 3, the last part of the movie. And it's a nice way to pull everything together. It's a short piece of the film, and basically we see the family going to the IRS. This is the reality where Waymond was able to get an extra week. So they are all going to the IRS. They're all getting their stuff together. They drive to the IRS. Becky drives them because now she's like accepted as part of the family. They get out of the car. They go to the IRS. They see Jamie Lee Curtis, the IRS auditor, she's played a significant role in a lot of the multiverses. So it's nice to see her again. And everyone looks pretty happy together. Everything looks like it's working out. And then the camera zooms into Evelyn, and we hear like she's hearing things from other multiverses, so she can still kind of do the multiverse switching thing, but this is the reality she's chosen to be in. And then like Jamie Lee Curtis asks if she's like heard everything, and Evelyn kind of snaps back into this reality. And I forget what she says, but it's something like, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, or something like that. And then it's over. And this amazing ride that we've taken is now over. There were no stingers in the film. So you don't have to worry about staying until the end of the credits, but you probably will want to just to hear the music and see the cast. And that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you can tell, I love this movie. I thought it was really, really imaginative. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was very clever. And I think you will too. So definitely check it out. It's coming to a limited release on March 25th, 2022, with a wider release on April 1st, 2022, and then a much wider release on April 8th, 2022. So definitely check it out. It's an A24 film. A24 is known for kind of like some weird out there movies, and this is a very good kind of weird out there movie. I love this movie. I think it'll definitely be in my top 10 list for this year. And it's only March, but I definitely think it'll be up there. And I think you should definitely check it out. So make sure to see it when it comes out. And thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.